This will be magnetic.
This is probably.
It's currently 6.
It's 6
Is
o'clock.
it? Okay.
Mayor.
But you are good?
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Chang? Here. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Power?
Here.
And Mayor Povencourt.
Here.
Everyone is present tonight. Thank you.
Okay. We have our invocation from Pastor Rob Brooks from the Tehachapi Church of the Nazarene. Would you guys please stand?
Yeah, that was kind of waste.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with grateful hearts, thankful for this community and for the privilege of gathering together to serve it. We ask this evening for your wisdom to guide every word spoken and every decision made here in this place. Lord, we lift up in a special way all those who serve our beautiful city, the members of this council, the mayor, our city staff, our first responders, our teachers, and every public servant who gives of their time and energy for the good and benefit of others. Thank you for their willingness to answer the call to serve, often at great personal sacrifice. Lord, grant them strength for the tasks that lie before them, patience in moments of disagreement, and courage to stand for what is right. Bless their families who share in the weight of that service. Watch over those who serve in dangerous or difficult circumstances and grant them safety and peace. Grant this council a spirit of unity, humility, and genuine care for one another and for every resident of this great city, especially the most vulnerable that live among us. May every decision made here tonight be rooted in justice, compassion, and a sincere desire to serve the common good. And may your peace rule over our great city. Help all who have interest here tonight. Help us to listen well, speak with kindness, and work together in ways that honor you and reflect your love for this community. We ask all this in your holy name with gratefulness and thanks. Amen.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Okay.
Salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Okay. Whoops. Oral communication. The City Council welcomes public comments on any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Persons addressing the council should first state their name and area of residence, the matter of city business to be discussed, and the organization or persons represented, if any. No action can be taken by the council on matters not listed on the agenda. All speakers are allotted 3 minutes. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak? Are there any telephonic speakers?
They're not.
None. Thank you. Council? Consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff and may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If a comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the City Council concerning the item before action is taken. Staff recommendations are shown in caps. Is there anyone from the audience that would like an item removed? Would you come up, please? State your name and you have 3 minutes.
The destruction of records, I would like that to be removed.
Destruction of records.
Item number 3.
Item 3.
So we'll take that in the sequence it's on the agenda when it comes up.
Alrighty, we'll take that in order that it is on the agenda, sir.
Okay.
Council? Can I have a motion?
Motion
Second.
to approve with item 3 removed.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Chang,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Power,
Yes.
Hovencourt.
Yes.
So 5-0 vote to approve the consent agenda with item 3 removed. Thank you.
So we'll go straight to item 3 if he's, and find out what questions he maybe has.
Okay, would you like to come up and let us know what's on your agenda besides item 3? Pardon?
No, that's it.
Ask him if he
Do you have a
wants to
question
speak
on
that.
item number 3?
No, that just seems kind of odd. To destroy records.
Okay. So what do we do in that
have,
respect?
and I could answer that question, not odd at all, it's regular, I'm over here, yep. Not odd at all, we have a policy concerning destruction of records. And so we retain certain records for a certain amount of time. And it's really just a housekeeping item. So appreciate you asking, but following the city policy. And which is in guidelines with also the state and federal government. Thank you.
So we need to take a vote on that.
Okay,
Motion to approve with 3.
we have a motion and
I
second.
make the motion to, add the staff presented. I'll second the motion.
Roll call?
Chang,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Power,
Yes.
and Hovencourt.
Yes.
So 5-0 vote to approve item number 3. Thank you.
Okay, can we have finance reports, Hamid Jones, please?
Thank you, Mayor Pogencourt, council members. Current COG has entered into a contract with Nelson Nygaard to prepare a new transit development plan for the city of Tehachapi's Dial and Ride Transit Service. That plan has been completed, and there are several recommendations for the city. Some of those recommendations require further study, and there is no penalty if a recommendation is not implemented or if there's further evaluation determines that there's a fatal flaw. At this point, I would like to welcome Kyle Taniguchi of Nelson Nygaard, and he has a presentation on the plan. Good evening. Do I have to?
It's on.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
It's not very loud.
Again, my name is Kyle Taniguchi. I'm a senior associate at Nelson Nygaard. We're here tonight to present to you the Tehachapi Transit Development Plan.
If it's not going, just tell us when to click. and we'll-
Okay.
I'm gonna switch these just real quick.
All right, try that one out for a second.
All right, so for tonight's presentation, want to walk you through a brief overview of the project, some highlights of existing conditions. We'll spend the bulk of our time talking about recommendations, and then close out with the implementation plan. So tonight's purpose of the presentation is to just give you some highlights. There's a lot more information that's included in the report. We'll highlight some of the key findings from early on in the project and then spend some time on the key recommendations. We'll have an opportunity to answer any questions that you all have, and then we'll request adoption at the end of this. So I'd like to start off by talking about what is a Transit Development Plan, or TDP. They're short-term, 5-year horizon plans that are cost-constrained with the intent of improving transit service within the community, in this case, the greater Tehachapi area. Per the California Transportation Development Plan Act, the TDPs must be updated regularly, and so this is the update that current COG is contracted with us for. We are currently conducting 9 TDPs. We're about midway through the project. That map to the right highlights all the agencies that we're working with in Kern County. The one thing I want to emphasize here is that by speaking to so many different transit agencies in the county, we've been able to uncover some of the recurring themes or opportunities or challenges that transit agencies are having, and those have made it into the recommendations as coordination opportunities. So our approach with this plan is that we want this to be the city's document, reflective of your community's needs, your city's needs, and priorities. We talked about it being a roadmap. but it can also be used to identify or provide justification for budgeting and grant applications that the city wishes to submit. The entire project was a collaborative process, so we had public involvement. We'll talk about that in just a second. We, the consulting team, were here to provide an initial assessment of opportunities, and city staff, including Comet and Sue, were instrumental in providing feedback on the recommendations that we put together, elevating concerns or questions that they had, and then flagging items that they were hoping to have included in the plan. So I'd like to spend a few moments on existing conditions. Next slide. Briefly, just for everyone's orientation purposes, Tehachapi Dial-A-Ride is currently contracted to Kern Transit. The pink area on the map shows the service area. It's a little bit larger than the city limits, extending out west. Service operates weekdays and Saturdays, and if anyone likes a ride, they have to call in at least 24 hours in advance, and it's on a first come, first served basis. I want to point out that there's those two blue lines on the map, and those are the intercity services. So there's an Amtrak Thruway bus, as well as the Kern Transit Route 100 that serve the Tehachapi Park and Ride lot. And so that provides the intercity connections if anyone is desiring to get outside and go to Bakersfield, Mojave, or Lancaster. Next slide. So phase 1 outreach was conducted last year, and was in the objective of that outreach was to identify what are the needs, opportunities, and challenges with taking transit into Tehachapi, but also within Kern County. So we had a coordinated phase 1 outreach effort throughout the entire county. We were able to get onboard vehicles here in Tehachapi and talk with riders and administer the survey. So that helped inform some of the early recommendations. Next slide. Phase 2 was conducted earlier this year, and the intent of this outreach was to follow up on the things that we heard from the public in the phase 1 outreach and help to test some potential recommendations for inclusion in the plan. So there was a public survey, we had a virtual public meeting, and then we also did a pop-up at the local Albertsons where we were able to engage with riders and members of the public, as well as get folks to take the survey. So we've gotten a pretty good response rate for the phase 2 outreach efforts compared to phase 1. Next slide. So here are some highlights from our existing conditions and outreach assessment. So in the first phase of outreach, what we heard from the public was transit does not run when it's needed. And so that helped to inform how we structured phase 2. And we asked more pointed questions, and so the feedback that we got was transit doesn't run late enough on Saturdays, transit doesn't run on Sundays, and buses are not reliable or on time. And so those were the focal points of the recommendations that we put into the plan. We also noticed, combing through the data, that productivity on the Dial-A-Ride service is low compared to the pre-pandemic 2 to 3 passengers per revenue hour. The Tehachapi Dial-A-Ride is a little bit lower now, and some of that is just due to the changing market conditions. But tying it back to the buses are not reliable piece, there is a recommendation in the report that specifically looks at this to see if there are potential capacity issues that need to be addressed. Next slide. So in terms of recommendations, next slide, I want to just walk you through some of the highlights. We have 16 recommendations in the plan, spanning 4 different categories: service, capital, operations, and admin and policy. Next slide, I just want to walk through some of the key recommendations from each of those categories. There's a lot more information that's included in the report, along with other recommendations that I don't have time to cover. But I want to spend some time starting with the service recommendations, because those are in direct response to the feedback we heard from the 2 phases of outreach. So we'd like to propose, as part of the plan, piloting extended Saturday service and new Sunday service. Next slide. And so what that looks like is, for the extended Saturday service, 2 hours of later operations. If the service currently ends at 5:30, we propose a pilot that would go till 7:30. And then in response to the public feedback about the Sunday service, we're proposing a new pilot for Sunday, with the hours of operation to be determined by the city. It could be possibly 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I want to emphasize, and this was a point of discussion that came up with the city, is that we know that staffing is challenging, funding is tight. We know that it can be challenging from Current Transit's perspective to hire and maintain operators, and certainly when you add service, even if it's part of a pilot, it does require additional funding. So we recognize that those are challenges going in, and that's kind of why we're recommending a pilot approach, because you're able to kind of test the waters a little bit before you actually fully commit to it, and we'll talk about in just a second how we recommend that you do that. Next slide. So included in the report is some guidelines on how to conduct a successful pilot program. One of the things that we really think is a good idea is establishing clear metrics before the pilot starts, so that way expectations are set, you know how you're going to evaluate the pilot. Oftentimes quantitative metrics are included, so that can include ridership, cost, productivity. But I think that you should also consider qualitative metrics, and those are equally important, in my opinion. Customer satisfaction with the pilot programs, who's taking the service, particularly if people don't have access to vehicles, that could be a measure of success. Or people that can't take the dial-a-ride service during regular hours of operation. I think those are all important considerations in measuring like whether a pilot was successful. Ultimately, it's up to the city to set the metrics, but we suggest a rider focus group be established to help establish what the metrics should be, but also to help get the word out about promoting the pilot service. And then once you have that set up, after the pilot, you can use those metrics to determine whether the pilot should be made permanent or whether it was not deemed to be a success. And again, funding and staffing would need to be considered and discussed if it were to be made permanent. Next slide. So from the operations category, there's a few things I want to highlight here, starting with the first one. Right now you have to call in to book your ride, and one of the things that we heard and Current Transit was open to was, is there a different way of booking your ride? And so there's an app that could be available that was piloted briefly here in Tehachapi, but looking at that from a holistic perspective and seeing can that be reinstituted to provide better access to transit. Monitoring trip denials and exploring ways to improve productivity. This kind of speaks to the public outreach that we heard. Making sure that there isn't any artificial capacity constraints and that trips are being dispatched in an efficient manner. The coordination with regional peers, again, kind of speaking to the conversations that we've had throughout the county. We think that there's opportunities to work together on zero emission transition, but also the maintenance of those new vehicles. And then driver training is of course a challenge for multiple operators throughout the county, and so I think there's some opportunities there to work together to solve that challenge. From the admin and policy category, updating and creating new marketing materials based on our conversations. I think there's some work to be done, and this can be low or no cost. Refreshing the dial-a-ride video, working with Cerro Coso Community College. Once they get to their new location, I think those are all opportunities that can be leveraged as part of this 5-year plan. Conducting a travel training campaign, what we heard from a few folks when we were doing outreach was they're just not comfortable or don't know how to take transit. And so travel training would help to provide an experience that says this is how you ride, this is how you pay if you are taking the fixed route bus, and would help to build awareness and comfort with taking transit in the community. And then last, evaluating a joint zero emission facility. There could be potential with Caltrans and Current Transit, as well as the city, to work together to potentially have a centralized and shared location to store and charge vehicles should the time come when Current Transit starts to transition their fleet over. Next slide. So as part of this project, we developed a financial model or plan to help understand what is the cash flow situation over the 5 years of the plan that we're developing. And based on our estimates, we show that the city should be able to fund existing transit service today at existing service levels as well as to pilot the 2 pilots that we talked about previously. Those would be 9-month pilots that could be instituted over the 5-year horizon of the plan. Additional revenue would be needed to make the service expansions permanent. A couple possibilities is to reallocate LTF and STA funding, but that doesn't need to be the only solution to that. All the other recommendations that we've included in the plan have low or no costs associated with them. Next slide. A lot more information is included in the final report. We have summary tables for each of the categories of recommendations, and there's a detailed write-up that goes along with each of the recommendations that talks about why we propose something and how the recommendation could be implemented. Next slide. So I'd like to close with the implementation plan. Next slide. There's a chapter in the final report that talks about how recommendations could potentially be implemented over the 5 years. There is flexibility in implementation. Things can be implemented sooner or later than we're suggesting. This is just kind of a skeleton framework, if you will, to work with. Our philosophy on TDPs is that they're essentially lists of projects or tasks to be done over the 5-year horizon of the plan, and conversations, further study needs to happen. To underscore what Hamid said earlier, there is no penalty if something can't be implemented or further evaluation determines that there's a fatal flaw. Simply set it aside and then work on the next thing, because there are a lot of things to tackle in the 5-year horizon of the plan. Next slide. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do I have any audience comments? Telephonic comments?
None.
And council comments?
Yeah, I have a question. So I was looking at, I could not find the page. So, where is that? Anyways, first of all, my impression I went through, I didn't read word to word, however, I went through pretty much, whole documentation. And my impression was, yeah, there's really awesome recommendations for this. However, I don't know how much you have put that in consideration for cost effectiveness, because I used to be a finance director, so I know. And there's certain project, okay, so we can do trial basis for the weekends and whatnot, but then how would you allocate for the temporary, whatever the trial period, the drivers? I read this and there is a scarce, have a hard time finding a qualified driver. And I think that can be a very much issue. And my next thing is, the sample size is so, first one, there are certain recommendations based on 1 or 2 riders. And how effective would that be? So I don't know if you don't get, you didn't get so much response from the people who, you got distributed with survey sheets and whatnot, and it's not your control. But that was my impression. And just one more. And so the thing is, a lot of times, I believe it was the STAF fund being held because of certain, the test the city has to go through between expenditures and, whatever, the rider. I don't remember exactly what was the formula, but in my understanding, when you calculate the net position and whatnot, that was all included LTF as well as STAF, right? And so that means that you are depleting all the money that we can use for just little money we can use for road. And we already don't have a lot of money on the roads, but anyways. So that is my input, and I wanted to hear your answer on the survey size. And first of all, I want to hear from you about that, the size of the survey.
So good question about the survey. Based on the 9 agencies that we've worked on in Kern County, the Tehachapi sample size for phase 2 is actually on the larger side.
Oh, wow.
And I know that it's often challenging to get rider feedback or community feedback. And so anything in the 30 to 50, like I've never actually gotten a survey size that's like 50 or more in kind of a rural setting, is kind of what I would like to think of as like things to be looking at or examining further. Like when I look at and I read every response that comes in, because everyone has, you know, their input and usually there's open response comments. When multiple people say the same thing, that starts to make me think that there might be underlying issues to consider. So I look at outreach as just one data point based on, you know, other considerations as well. In other communities in Kern County, I won't name names, like we've had struggled to get riders to give us any feedback, like 0 to 2 per survey that we've administered. So I don't really know what to make of that, but if people are asking, if we're asking for input and no one is saying like, oh, it's fine, I don't want to take the survey, then I feel like that says something. I can't really speak to like the statistical significance of the Tehachapi sample size, but when I see double digits and particularly in the 20s and 30s, it does make me consider the recommendations that we put together.
Yeah. I had a quick question as well. Thank you for answering that because the sample size was a concern. Because if you're only asking 8 people and that's 40% of those, from what we read, looked like it was only the people who were riding. So from a bird's eye view, what is the population that typically rides the bus in a week? Like, is it 20 people? Is it 150 people? Just from a bird's eye view. I
think the overview of the Tehachapi dial ride slide had some ridership numbers. When I go back to that, I think it was like 14 to 30.
Okay, those were the numbers I saw then. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question. Do we know why the number went lower from COVID times to now? Like, is there?
We discussed with the finance department. I think there's a few different things going on. I think pre-COVID there was a school bus fare in Tehachapi. Dial Ride I think was free, and now they're both free, and so there really isn't that fare differential, if you will. We also know, based on our national experience, that travel patterns have changed. There's some people that are able to work remote at least part of the week, and so particularly in the case of Dial a Ride, if someone is needing a ride to get to the park and ride lot to commute to, say, Bakersfield, that can certainly put numbers down from where they were pre-COVID. So those are the two things that come to mind, but included in the productivity recommendation is for Kern Transit and the city to kind of look at operations to see if there's maybe particular times of day where people want to take more trips and there isn't the ability to fulfill that request, or if there's an imbalance between the number of drivers and the number of requests that they're getting in. So it's hard to say without diving too deep into the data, but those are like the two things that come to mind.
Do you know if most of the rides they all just stay local, or do most of the rides go down to Bakersfield?
Unfortunately, we don't have data on that, so we only have the trip volumes. I know the city did a study, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that kind of looked at origins and destinations, so Stuart Ahmed could maybe speak to that a little bit more, but from what I know, based on conversations and looking at the data, it's mostly been students and older adults that are using the service.
And my last question, is there a way, let's say, to be able to get more surveys answered? Maybe an incentive getting provided to them, or something to encourage people to A, use Dial a Ride, and B, feedback.
Yeah, I think survey incentives are a great mechanism for getting people to respond. When we did the pop-up event in front of the Albertsons, we didn't have any incentives, and so certainly if the city would like to explore or try and engage with more riders before you do the pilot program, that would be an effective way to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Couple questions. So I assume Tehachapi is not much different than other cities in the ridership numbers, correct? It's very low.
So the Dial a Ride service is operated by Kern Transit, so that includes like Fraser Park, Lamont, Tehachapi, etc. Are Generally lower than some of the other dial ride providers, so say McFarland, Wasco, Shafter, California City, and again, without being able to dive into kind of the trip patterns and trip activity, it's hard to say, but one possible scenario is that could just be the dispatching software practices. That would be, again, a task to be looked at further.
Okay, this happens every year when we have to authorize the money for, this would be considered, I would say, a centralized service for someone who needs a ride. Because you've got a bus and a driver, and then a system to call in and get a ride. Has there ever been a consideration, and I've brought this up in times past, to subcontract this because we never pay for the service costs from the riderships never meet the cost of the service, correct? I mean, it's rare that you have enough riders that actually pays for the cost of the service.
Correct. I think that's a universal assumption. Transit requires a subsidy.
Right, but we're mandated to provide the service. Has there ever been a consideration to subsidize this to a different party that's, let's say, in this case, Uber and Lyft drivers that could be certified to be a dial-a-ride certified driver and vehicle? Could they, instead of having the large expense of drivers and buses and the vehicles and everything that goes with that centralized system, could you decentralize it with a private contractor under the guise, you know, like you have some utilities, they say SCE, you'll see someone else doing the work and they'll say authorized SCE contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're doing the work, but they're subcontracted by the parent company. Could we be the parent entity that provides a dial-a-ride service, but utilizing more than just one bus and one driver at a time? You could augment Lyft and Uber drivers, their number of trips per day, but they could also be in the system where they're a contract to pick up a dial-a-ride ride. Has there ever been a consideration for subsidizing that into a private enterprise?
So I'll just start by saying that the city currently contracts with Kern Transit to provide the service, and Kern Transit actually contracts with a national operator to provide the service. So it's already contracted out, it's not an in-house operation. But to your point about Uber or Lyft, we had this conversation with a few other communities in Kern County. I don't think we had it with Hamid and Sioux, but the concern has been the lack of vehicles to fulfill rides. But the other concern that's come up is people who have walkers or wheelchairs need wheelchair accessible vehicles, and generally that's not the type of vehicle that an Uber or Lyft driver has, and so you would still need those specialized type of vehicles out in the community, and so that's kind of the role that the Kern Transit buses for dial-a-ride play. So not to say that it is infeasible, it would just need to be looked at further and discussed with Kern Transit, because maybe there can be some kind of Uber program on the side, but what would that reduction in service to pay Kern Transit to operate, what would that look like? Those are things that would need to be examined further.
You might be able to have a vehicle that's not so large as the current bus that we always have low ridership, maybe a downsized vehicle, van
Yeah.
or whatever, for those special needs riders, and decentralized for those that just need a ride, just hop in and go to the regional drop-off here on Tehachapi Boulevard. Just a thought.
Yeah, there's minivans that have been converted to allow for wheelchair access. Kern Transit is currently working to acquire new vehicles, and so I don't exactly know where that fits in, but that's something we can bring up and let them know about.
I didn't catch that. They're looking at what kind of vehicles?
Kern Transit is currently working to replace parts of their fleet that are beyond their useful life. So I don't know what their fleet replacement plan looks like, but we can certainly pass that along as a suggestion.
So the buses that are used, are they typically ever full? Or is that like on a school day when there's bad weather that you might get a lot of riders? But typically, if you have just a handful of riders and you've got a large bus, wouldn't it be
Yeah, so
better to have a
those-
less expensive bus?
Yeah, I don't have the exact cost, but I would say that those cutaway buses that you see that are, pretty short, not the long current transit buses, don't ever fill up completely. I mean, there are a few instances where there's like group trips, where people are trying to go to the senior center, for instance. There might be like, oh, let's pick everyone up at once and then drop them off after the senior lunch, for instance. I don't know like how often that happens. That would be a current transit question. But oftentimes there needs to be a cost value assessment of like what is the cost of operating the vehicle versus acquiring a niche, smaller vehicle that you then have to sub-manage in your fleet. So it's not an answer, but something to look at.
It's just, we're paying so much for not getting enough revenue to support the system, so it's always in the red. Anyway.
Mayor Pocourt, I had a couple comments, questions.
Sure.
Thank you. So I was completely hands-off during this. This is the first time we've met, so thank you for the recommendations and the report. Again, I'll remind council, it's just a recommendation. We're just receiving the report tonight. We have under no obligation. However, it brings up a lot of different points. One of them, you have on this particular slide, 14 to 32 riders a day. Now, that includes all of Golden Hills also. Of the 14 to 32, how many are in the city limits that are calling for the service?
That data we do not have.
It's-
So we looked at it in aggregate.
So we're trying to, we combined the city and Golden Hills with Kern Regional Transit. Again, this is not something the city employees provide. It's a contract. Also, Kern Regional Transit, through their employees and their buses, I've heard that they can't support more service at this point, but they're looking into it. And I think it's kind of noteworthy, if you could go back to the slide, it was one of the first ones with the different communities that you've already spoke with. You have not talked to the county of Kern. Seems like you would want to talk to them first about their employees and their processes before you talk to the other cities, because it's a trickle down. And so just as an observation is all, because you're kind of going from the bottom up, if you will, because they're the mothership, they're the ones that have the employees and the buses and all of those different things. So they could have helped with this process, maybe work with them on the reports and then go to the cities to make some recommendations. And then on the Saturday service, did the people that you interviewed tell you why they wanted extended hours? Did they want to be picked up from the bar? Do they have to get picked up from school? Why add 2 hours?
So there wasn't a lot of open response comments to the people that put in Saturday service or New Sunday service. So I can't speak to that piece, but to the current transit piece, we have been engaging with them since the start of the project last year. And just in terms of sequencing, what we're doing is we're doing 3 batches of TDPs at a time. So the West Side, Wasco, Shafter, and McFarland were the first to be adopted. And now we're kind of working our way east to central. We've been in contact with Kern Transit, Angela specifically, about her conditions, and there's a separate report that we're drafting right now that speaks to their issues and needs, but also to the Tehachapi service. So when we get to publishing the Kern Transit TDP, any recommendations that relate to the operation of service in Tehachapi will also be included in that report.
Right, thank you. So we offer a solid service at this point. And if you ask somebody at Albertsons, would you like longer service, better service? I think most people would say, sure. And if you ask them next question, how are you going to pay for it? Then where does that play in? So anyway, I appreciate the report. We'll certainly take it under consideration. Council, lots of great questions. And so,
I just have a few more questions. First of all, I would like to tell you, although we have all kinds of questions and the report was very well done, very thorough, doesn't mean that, it was very long. Anyways, so our fare, it is very low, and we always had an issue with the fare box ratio, as well as, the ratios keep going down, and I understand because all the other cost is going up, including gasoline, yet we're charging very minimal amount. So my question is, how would you compare that our fare, Tehachapi region, with other current dial ride in Kern County?
Ooh, that's a good question. I believe the fare is $2. Some other communities are lower than $2. I think I've seen $1, $1.25, I believe. But the other piece is the LC top funding, which is being used to cover fares. And so some communities in Kern County have elected to use their LC top funding to provide free fares for their community. And so that has helped to generate riders, but it also means that you're not collecting fares at the fare box. One of the things that we've been talking to Angela about is what do you think about the fares? She doesn't have a fare policy in place currently, but what a fare policy would do if one were established is to be able to look at with regular cadence of like, do we need to raise fares so that way we can keep up with the expenses? And agencies often like say within a 2 or 3 year time period, we need to look at our costs and compare it to fares and make a determination of should we round it up to the nearest nickel, dime, or quarter. So those would be covered by a fare policy type thing. So that would be something that we can talk with Kern Transit about to see if they'd be comfortable establishing one that could potentially address their issue.
Because one thing I learned from your report is the fare, the dial ride, the riders are not necessarily from low income, I could tell. Because I think about the 50% of the people are, household income is more than 50, and some of them has over 200,000 a year annual income, and I was really surprised. Probably those are the people with the handicap, because I had ridden a dial ride bus before, and that's when I learned Uber would not work, because the way they secure these wheelchair is so secure, it's so safe for them, and I don't know who can do that. So that's when I learned that if anybody needs such a support, then such as Uber or Lyft will not work. That's just my 2 cents. But in your report also has mentioned that the fare box ratio stayed no longer force the 10%, correct, right? But
Yeah,
however,
that's been
because
suspended.
of TDA still, but TDA, who has more, leverage over this?
Yeah, and there's currently a transit transformation task force. They've issued some recommendations related to the fare box recovery policy, and right now we're waiting to kind of hear what the formal guidance is at the state level. So it's unclear if the fare box recovery ratio will continue to exist in its current form. So one of the recommendations in the report is once the new guidance is released, the city should work with Kern Transit to establish how you would be able to meet whatever guidance comes out from the state level.
Only reason that I'm questioning this is because City of Tehachapi general fund subsidize the fare box ratio in order for us to meet 10%. So we can do away, if that it is not required, then we can use either LTF or STAF, I believe, right? So And that's it. Thank you so much.
One more comment from, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, just one more comment. Earlier, you had mentioned qualitative measurements. You know, the city council, we take that into consideration, but we also look at quantitative measurements to ensure that our money is being used as efficiently as possible. So I just want to thank you for your presentation. And I understand, and I think we all understand the need in those who serve, but we also have a financial responsibility as well.
I have one more question. Would you be able to tell me how Dial a Ride is being advertised? Is it advertised? Like, do people know about it? Do we get to a lot of people?
I know
Especially in town?
that Holland can maybe speak to this a little bit more, but I don't think that there's broad community awareness of transit and availability in Tehachapi, and so there was a Dial a Ride video that was the city put together a year or two ago, maybe more, and with the intent of providing increased public awareness of the service. And I think that making people aware of the service is a good step in the right direction, both in terms of generating ridership, but also making people aware of, like, this is an option if I can't drive anymore, or I have a medical condition that makes it challenging and I need someone to take me from the clinic or the grocery store to home. So all that to say, I think there are opportunities both like from printed material, electronic material, and then certainly on the website as well to make it more prominent and put a lot more information.
Okay, so that falls onto like the city side of the city having to do that?
Yes, and maybe Mr. Jones could answer your question in great detail.
I think over the years, we've tried to expand the different ways that we've marketed and advertised. So in years past, we've done water bill inserts, we've done I think advertising at the Hitching Post, and more recently we've really tried to utilize our communications department, through our website, through Facebook ads. We've gone to the senior center, we print brochures, we update them regularly and distribute them. So we're always trying to expand on those and try to get the word out as best we can.
I just wanted to share, I work with the visitor center, and so I work with our volunteers. And one of the biggest questions that we get every week is people calling in and saying, hey, can I get the number for Dial a Ride? Can you give me some information about Dial a Ride? What is the public transit that we have here? And so our volunteers are trained to give them that information. But just to speak to, a lot of that audience, they're elders, they're trying to make it to their medical appointments. They're trying to, not necessarily, most of them are going out of the area. They're going to Bakersfield, they're going to Lancaster, they're trying to get to other appointments and things, and they're trying to make sure they can get down and back in one day. And so a lot of them are trying to plan and figure out, like, how do I work this bus system? So I just wanted to share that from my perspective, because I see that every week when I go into the visitor center and I see all the call logs and everything.
Very good. Thank you.
I think Mr. Budge had something to add from our communications department also.
Key Budge, our communications director, just wanted to reiterate what Hamed had said, that we utilize all of our social media platforms, so Instagram, Nextdoor, Facebook, X, and Threads to go along with YouTube. We've created the video a little over a year ago, put that out. Things are available on our website. We did work with Sue on printed material, which were distributed to the senior center, the adult daycare, and various other strategic locations to reach our community. So one of those things that we sit down and put together a marketing plan for Dial a Ride. We do that every year, go over what was successful, how we can do better. We also pay for ads in our print newspaper, in the Loop, to go along. In the past, we've done Hitching Post, and try to be creative to reach as many people as possible. So with our social media reach, we actually reach more than what the population of the entire zip code is. So we feel very strong that we have a robust presence, and the messaging that we get out is very effective. And that's what we've seen. We see a lot of engagement on those posts that we've created. So I'm happy to answer your questions.
I agree with you, Keith.
Would that be a good avenue for the surveys?
We've pushed the surveys out utilizing our social media, and probably the reason why he said that he's received as many as he has was based on the fact that we pushed that participation out. And that was something that we had talked and worked with the Dial-A-Ride and with the consultants.
Thank you, Keith.
And one more thing from me, Mr. Smith, Councilmember Smith, you're absolutely correct with the Uber or Waymo, those different companies that offer that service. We actually started a project, if you will, at the city. We opened it up, looking into that specifically some time ago. And we've talked to a couple companies about that service. One of the hurdles, probably the biggest hurdle, quite frankly, is the handicap piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that technology is evolving so quickly that we might see something in the future that could allow us to provide better service at a lower cost. Because you're right, the big buses running around with one person in them, it's not cost effective.
No.
This is not San Francisco, where public transit is the norm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'd like a motion.
I make the motion.
A second,
I'll second.
roll call vote, please.
Chan,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
and Hovencorn.
Yes.
It's a 5-0 vote to approve.
Development services report with Andrew.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Good evening.
Should I wait for the slides, or?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tonight we bring the 2720S Measure S Grind and Overlay Project Award. The project includes repaving of A, B, C, D, most of D, all of E, Polly, Carroll, and a rebuild of Tehachapi Willow Springs Road. We had 6 bidders. And favorable pricing, with the low bid being Griffith Company. We've done a number of projects over the years with Griffith Company. All the bids received were responsive, and we're asking council to award the 26-27 Measure S paving project to Griffith Company for the total bid amount of $1,472,735, and authorize the city manager to approve any necessary change orders up to the project budget amount. Happy to answer any questions we have about the project.
Do we have any audience questions? Council?
I have a
There was
question.
one
Oh.
question in the back.
How many miles of road are being paved?
Ooh, unknown at this
We
time.
can, can we, because we have a new system, can you come up to the podium, state your name, and then ask the question, please? Thank you.
My name is Jake Gutierrez, and I was just interested in how many miles of street will be paved with the allotted $1,472,735.
And what's your residence, Jake?
816 Aspen Drive, California.
Thank you.
I don't know the exact number of miles. We do have it depicted, including, just I think we have the second image of Tehachapi Willow Springs with a full rebuild.
Yeah.
Happy to report back to council next time on the number of total lane miles.
But if you can, would you scroll back to the map for the gentleman's? So the streets in red are the streets that we are going to either reconstruct or repave, if you will. Andrew, maybe you could list the streets real quick?
Sure.
Can you name those, please?
Yep. So it's A Street, B Street, C Street, parts of D Street, E Street that hasn't been done, Holly and Carroll, and then Tehachapi Willow Springs.
The little section of Tehachapi Willow Springs, which is the next map, if you don't mind, that is in the city to the south on the other side of the freeway. That's in the county of Kern.
Correct.
So we own that little piece there. So this is the third year of great paving projects within the city. Very proud of what we're able to achieve, budgeting and produce this. It did come in under budget, so we're really excited about that. And we're closing in on every street in the city of Tehachapi being repaved at some point, so very soon.
I had a question. This is a complete and full replacement of these streets, correct?
The downtown streets will be ground and overlaid like we've done on other downtown streets. So the first map right there is grind and overlay. What we do is we wedge grind against the curb or the gutter lip, and then place 2 inches of new asphalt over the whole width of the road. The reason why we grind 2 inches of the gutter lip is that way, as the new asphalt lays over the old, it ties into the lips. We're able to seam it properly against the gutter. Tehachapi Willow Springs is a full grind out and full depth reclamation. Essentially what we do is we'll grind the road to profile, then pulverize the existing road asphalt with the base and the subsoils, injecting cement as we go. And that forms a hardened mat. Then 3 days later, we'll come back and repave right over the top. But what you wind up with is a really strong structural section.
And all of the utilities and water conduits have been addressed, conduits may not be the right word, for infrastructure on these streets, so we're not going to have to cut into them to repair them?
Yep. So for the downtown streets, Public Works has done an awesome job. They've replaced water mains and everything out in front of us. But remember, we're not removing the existing asphalt except for against the gutter. So we'll wind up with not only replaced water lines, but a thicker street section at the end. We have designed around a number of utilities on Tehachapi Willow Springs because that full road's coming out and we're cement treating the substrate.
Thank you.
Once we do this improvement, what's the life of this? How long it'll last until the next due comes in general?
Sure. Is there a specific street or just the two separate?
In general, I mean, like it really depending on how much the road is being,
Exactly. So Tehachapi Willow Springs is a full rebuild. We would expect a 30-year lifespan.
Isn't it like
out
a
of that.
reconstruction though?
Yeah, that's a full reconstruction.
Wow.
That's ground out. Then we blend it. There's a big machine that comes in and blends it and injects cement powder in there as we go through. So that'll be a full 30-year lifespan. That is an expensive process, but we've done it around town next to waste management and other areas, and it's proven to have the durability that we need. The 2-inch grind and overlay, where we're laying over a structural section, my estimation is somewhere greater than 10 years. A slurry gets you a few, and that's a topical coat. A lot of our road failures are weather related, not necessarily traffic or impact related. So
I just want to make a comment that any of these streets are covered by or qualified for federal road grant. Without that, we all know how expensive it is to do the road reconstruction or improvement job without grant, especially as a public sector, because it's way more costly than other contractor can do for you and I, if I have to do it. And so I am just wanted to say, I'm very proud of what you guys are doing, our city is doing. This 10-year project is amazing. And so, we do have a measure as that really, really improves our city. And, I am really pleased and very proud. And especially you guys have these amazing, very structured, well-planned, 10-year plan. And that's gonna make our town, so beautiful and very nice. Thank you.
any other questions or comments?
Any other questions? I forgot telephonic comments? Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
I'm just wondering whether or not it would be worth spending an admittedly large amount of money to fully rebuild about a quarter mile of Willow Springs. It's a very short stretch. I don't know if that'll be worthwhile.
In our estimation, absolutely. I don't know if you've driven that street recently, but it's completely coming apart.
Okay.
It's a main thoroughfare between the city and the county. And if we don't maintain our infrastructure, it crumbles away, and we spend a lot more money bringing it back to a standard that's acceptable.
Okay. Will the rest of that between Denison and, or is that Highline there in Valley Boulevard be paved at some point? Or is it just gonna be that final stretch?
Between what two roads?
Highline
and
Valley Boulevard.
Tehachapi Boulevard?
Yes.
And as I mentioned before, that's in the county of Kern.
Yes.
Right, so we would have to ask the county of Kern what their plans are, but we're only talking about city projects, city money.
Yeah, that's
right.
I don't know why, I don't feel like it'd be very prudent to pave one small section of it without any collaboration with the county.
Oh, we collaborate with them all the time.
Well,
I just can't answer that particular question at this moment, but they have a program where they're upgrading, repaving, slurry sealing county roads also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. So this project is in addition to the previously approved slurry projects around there.
Correct. Yep. And that's coming in the next weeks, not months. So then finally, the ask is award the 26-27 Measure S paving project to Griffith Company for the total bid amount of $1,472,735 and authorize the city manager to approve any necessary change orders up to the project budget.
And one last comment.
Okay.
And without Measure S, we would be talking about, we might do this street this year and another street the next year.
Okay.
We're talking about multiple streets over a several year period, and we're nearing completion of total streets being done. Otherwise, we'd be piecemealing as we've been doing for the last 40 years at least. Thank you.
And to answer Mr. Gutierrez's question earlier, I was able to input a few information, and it turns out to be about approximately 1.61 miles of work. Of course.
Thank you, Mary. Well, motion? Said. Okay, I get my road done next year, I believe, but can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second it.
Chan,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
and Palumbo.
Yes.
So 5-0 vote to approve.
City manager reports?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Council members? Mariana?
I don't have anything this evening, thank you.
Phil?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Hannah?
Yeah, I just wanted to praise the city for amazing July 4th, and I was such a proud mama because my children was home, so very, very wonderful. Great job. They think that it's the best. Tehachapi, July 4th is the best. Yeah.
Yes, I think the parade and rodeo, it had a different format than in the past, and it was very organized and very successful. The park was packed with people. Like, I thought, oh, is this Mountain Festival? We've never had that many people at 4th of July. So it was great. And then the fencing on Tehachapi Boulevard, or not Tehachapi Boulevard, Tucker, coming off of 58 is coming up. I just wonder if they're gonna have trees in there.
At some point.
Yeah, good, because it looks ugly without it, I think. But anyway, And then, all the banners, I've had lots of comments about that. The fireworks were great. The problem was trying to get out of there with those train, what are they called?
Crossing gates.
Crossing gates shut. It took a half an hour to get home because they brought them around by Denny's that way. So I thought we had a very, very, very successful 4th of July. And everybody came together. Thank you, Chamber, for everything. It was great. It was very nice.
Mrs. Bauer has something maybe.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to reiterate it, I remember being a little kid for the 200th, 4th of July, and my husband and I sat in Central Park and watched all of these little kids have, I hope, the same kind of memories I did as a child. You guys really did an exceptional job. They had such a great time. You never know what positive impact you have in a community, but I know you've made a tremendous impact that will be remembered for years by our next generation. So thank you so much for all your hard work, and the fireworks were fantastic. So good job, everybody, and I know it's everyone in this room, from the police department to the public works. I know every street sign got repainted. So much went into prepping for this. A year's worth of planning at least, Keith. And everyone just really showed Tehachapi why we're so exceptional. So thank you.
We will now adjourn to closed session.